because when you nurture something that you love and that is really your own creativity or energy, it's no one can take that away.
Before this episode begins, I wanted to let you guys know that the Started Somewhere apparel is officially live. In the description of this video, you'll see a link. It says Started Somewhere apparel. You can grab a hoodie, all colors, all sizes, t-shirts, long sleeves, and even coffee mugs. The hoodies are my favorite. They're super comfortable, true to size. They look good. They feel good. And if you do grab one, you'll be directly supporting me and you'll be supporting the show. So any money that I make from the apparel will go directly back into the show. And I'd really appreciate it if you do want to go that extra mile and show your appreciation for the content. You can do so by grabbing yourself a piece of clothing. Now, we're also live on Patreon. Okay, now I have plans here in the very near future to put exclusive content, exclusive only content on the Patreon. The Patreon is just $5 a month. It's also in the description. And if you do want to show your support and get access to that exclusive interview content, we have some amazing guests coming out in the near future, and I'm going to be recording some private segments exclusively for Patreon members. You can also subscribe and show your support that way. And the last thing, before we get into the episode, I've realized after looking over the analytics that we have a lot of people that watch these episodes. They tune in each and every single week, and they're not subscribed to the channel. Check down below right now. Are you subscribed? If you're not, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out. It helps me out. I have a goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Can you help me do that? If you can, I'd really appreciate it. Drop a comment. Let me know if you did subscribe. Hit that like button. And of course, enjoy today's episode. All right, Will, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ross. Great to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. How's your day going so far, man? Day after Labor Day.
It's nice. I just had a great trip visiting family in Michigan, where I'm from, and it was awesome to get some quality family time and out on the water. And now I'm back home in California and just settling into the groove with some good vibes from that trip. So I'm doing great.
Nice, brother. What part of Michigan?
A little town called Traverse City, which is in the northwest corner. It's not in the Upper Peninsula, but it's pretty far north, and it's just a beautiful little town that's getting on the map more with they have a lot of film festivals and unique things for a small town. So love spending time there.
And you said that you're originally from that area?
Yes, born and raised there. Yep. All my family's out there,
Yeah.
uncles, parents, grandma, everyone's there.
Man, so you must be used to some brutal winters.
Yeah, they're kind of becoming a forgotten memory. I've been in California for over 10 years, so, I hear about them, and I haven't had to live through one since I was 18, so.
There you go.
But yeah, the winters are long.
Nice, man. Yeah, I definitely, when I'm in the South, I don't miss shoveling snow at all. I think that's one of the worst parts of winter.
No, I'm not missing that.
What part of California you're living in now, man?
Right now I'm in the North Bay, Marin County, just 30 miles north of San Francisco, a little town called Novato. It's a great little spot. I'm close to the city, but I'm kind of far enough removed where there's some nature and it's quiet, and I just moved up here in March, and I'm really enjoying it.
Nice, man. I love North California, man. The Bay Area, it's just so beautiful. I'm on the East Coast. Right. So for you, what is it now? 11 a.m.?
11. Yep.
11 a.m. Nice, man. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here again, brother. And, we talked a little bit offline about what you currently are up to and what you have going on. But for the listener, would you mind to just give us a brief overview of what you're all about?
For sure. So I'm a musician. I've been a professional musician for over 15 years, and I had a point in my younger days where I just knew music was my thing. It was just so clear. I would practice for like 10 hours a day, and it was just like, it was my life and my passion, and it really led me to California. That's where I studied music in college at the California Institute of the Arts. And since then, I've kind of developed my path as a professional artist on the West Coast. And a part of that journey also was getting into an instrument called the sitar, which is from India, and it's a stringed instrument. And my first instrument is the guitar, which everyone knows the guitar. And I got into the sitar in college. I got into the culture. I just went deep into that. And so now I teach and record and perform on sitar. I import instruments, and it's just been an amazing journey to see my passion for music unfold to where I'm at now. So yeah, here I am in the Bay. I record and perform and teach and travel to India every year. This year's a little different with the pandemic, but so that's what I'm up to. I'm a lover of music. I'm really dedicated to just top quality sound and music.
Awesome, man. And do we have a sitar behind you? Or
I
am I?
do. Yeah, I made sure to have one here. And this is actually the one that I designed. I designed an electric sitar that has a plug-in here. Not the average feature of a sitar. And actually, this is a modern one because the original one, the body, for the listeners, the body is a big kind of hollow gourd. And this, you can see, is thin, and it's more like a guitar. And it allows me to travel because, you got to check in this big instrument that's fragile and they break a lot. So this is kind of a new development of an ancient instrument. And yeah, here it is here. It's got 20 strings and pretty unique sound.
Wow.
So
Dude,
this is what I
feel like I'm about to be hypnotized here, man.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah.
good, man.
This has been my trip for, I got so into sitar. That was all I really thought or cared about for about 6 years. And here it
Wow,
is.
man, you got a Cobra to go with it, or what?
Yeah,
Man, that's
nice.
super cool, man. So for the listeners, if you want to see what a sitar looks like, head over to the YouTube version. But man, that sounds awesome. It looks like a pretty big instrument from here.
It is, and this is even the smaller one. The old school one is even larger. So yeah, it's got a long neck. You need to sit on the floor. You can't sit in a chair because it rests on my foot. And so it's even like, we got to get used to sitting on the ground, and then the instrument will come and rest here. So, right off the bat, there's just a lot of things to get used to coming from a guitar background.
Wow, man. Now, how much does one of those go for cost-wise?
They are pretty wide ranging like guitars. You could get your basic beginner sitar for like 800. You can start working up more to 15, 16, and then the upper levels around 2500.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I've never met someone that plays the sitar before, so it's one of
I
the
love
biggest
spreading
perks
it.
of doing the show, man, is getting to
Right
meet
on.
awesome people doing awesome things. Now, I am curious, Will, how did you get into this field of playing the sitar versus, I know you said you started playing the guitar, but, how did that kind of go about for you?
So I was really lucky, even though I'm from this little town in northern Michigan. There happens to be an international boarding art school 30 minutes from this town that I grew up in, and kids from all over the world go there and they live there. And so think of like child prodigies from Yugoslavia and Israel and China. Like they literally get sent there to study music at this academy. And what I was mentioning, I kind of realized music was my path around 13, 14, and I heard about this school, and it was like, whoa, I can major in guitar and like do this in high school. It was like this amazing opportunity. So I got to go to this Interlochen Academy of the Arts, amazing school, and it was pretty much a college education. I had intensive practice and performances, and I'm with these like crazy talented prodigies, and just yeah, it was a whole unique environment as a high schooler to be in that, and I really thrived off of that just immersion, and I loved to practice all day. And so when I finished that program, I got to Cal Arts, which I was really excited about because it had not only Western music but music from all over the world, and I was like curious, like I want to learn music from every part of the world. I want to compose and be inspired by all the music that I can get my hands on. And so it was there in college that I was interested in Indian music, just like, wow, this is interesting. I want to get into this. And I started by playing guitar in one of their classes where it was Indian music and anyone could play. There were saxophones and cello, and the teacher was an Indian master, and he would compose and write for any instrument. And the music, like you said, hypnotized. Like I was totally entranced and hypnotized by just the beauty of this sound, and it's very improvisational and just the depth of it. And I realized I got to play one of their instruments. So eventually I got a sitar in my hands, and I just knew like this just feels right, and it lit me up so much that I changed my major, and I would just practice and practice, and that was how I got into sitar. And I kind of like to say that the sitar found me in a way. I didn't think that I was ever going to play it, or had this idea that I'm going to Cal Arts to learn sitar. It kind of just happened. It found me, and it resonated. So that was how it started.
Right. I think that's a common theme for a lot of entrepreneurs and creators. Sometimes stuff just falls into our laps, and you got to run with it, right?
Part of the beauty, some of the best things in life you never would have seen coming.
That's awesome, man. Now, you said that you got into music at an early age, right? And then you ended up going to school for it, and you majored in music. I'm curious, if you were to go back in time, looking back, during that time period of your life, what would you say your goals were, like your aspirations? Like, did you want to do this as a career? Did you know right away, I want to be a creator and, record my own music? Like, what did that look like for you?
I knew that I wanted to make a life with music and performing. I had a band that I played with, and we played a lot. My town is kind of a busy tourist town in the summer, so it was great. Like starting at age 16, I'd be playing 3-4 nights a week, 2-hour sets with my trio, and we played music that we loved, and then we also had our own music. So just getting that experience of performing, and we made money too. That was there early on, and I knew that I wanted to make this my life. And also though, I just love studying music. I love learning and being involved in music, and I knew that there was more music out there that I wanted to learn, and that's what drew me to Cal Arts. And kind of music for me was like gateway to like the entire world. I really developed this strong sense of geography because I would literally go to the library and check out all the CDs, and they had things just from everywhere, and I'd be listening to music from the rainforest of Uganda, and like I knew that music was a path to like this broader discovery of the world. So definitely wanted to perform and write, but also there was some other drive of like, this is how I want to interact with the world, is through the study of music and the practice of music.
Now, you said that you did a few paid gigs, and I'm curious about that. Actually, that thought popped into my head the other night. I went out to dinner, and I saw there was a hired band. The first thought that came to my mind was, how do you even get a gig like that? If you're a new musician, how do you get gigs to play restaurants and bars? And number two, what could one expect to earn performing at like a dinner at a restaurant or something like that?
Right. Well, honestly, a lot of it is just being in a place and getting to know people, and it's like a lot of things. We're just having that connection. For me, it was like a friend's parents owned the restaurant, and they liked the kind of music that we played, and so it helps to always have some basis with the community. It's hard to move somewhere, and you got to be patient. It takes 3 to 5 years. If say you're a musician and you're going to move somewhere and start your career there, it takes time because people need to get to know you, and that's a part of what being a musician is kind of connecting to your community. And then, yeah, it's interesting. There's quite a range of what you might get paid for a gig like this. Usually, it's maybe a couple $100 for a night set. Plus, you'll get fed and you'll have the tip jar out. You'll sell some CDs, and so it's not like it's going to pay the bills completely, but what it does as a musician, as a performer, the more that you're out there engaging and people are hearing you, it leads to the next thing. And so you could be at the restaurant playing and someone's like, hey, I've got a wedding coming up. You guys sound great. Let's talk about that. It's almost like a platform for you to just share what you're doing. And so that's a big part of what these performances also offer is that next wave of clientele, or someone's like, whoa, I want to take lessons with you. I really like the way you're playing. And that's a part of it that a lot of people might not see. And even on that tangent, though, I always discourage musicians from playing for free because they need to be valued for their time, right? Like you gotta, like, because people try to say, oh, come play this gig and it'll be great exposure. We don't have a budget for you. But it's like, hey, like, you got to honor my time and my commitment, and I'm showing up with equipment, and I could be working something else at this time. So but yeah, that $100 a night or whatever, it is what it is. And yeah, does that give you a sense of?
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Like,
totally
yeah.
I totally agree with you, Will, because it's just, I feel like it's the same with anything when it comes to rendering services and whatnot. You have to value your time, right? There's a lot of people out in the world that just want freebies, and they think about how you can benefit them, and they're not really thinking about how they can help you or benefit you. And sometimes exposure is great, but you do have to put a price tag on your time and figure out how to make it worth your while so that you can get the best of both worlds. Because we all have bills to pay, right? We all have a lifestyle to live. So I completely agree with you. I'm curious though, if somebody is just starting out, right? Like, and I want to talk about your path more in depth. Let's just say right now we have a listener that loves music. They want to figure out how to monetize their music and make it into a career. Let's break it down into some steps. What's the first step that they should take?
First step is really kind of identifying who your audience is, and what can you offer. Like, really break down, all right, I'm comfortable teaching. Some people like to teach, some people don't. So clarify that off the bat. Like, I'd be willing to go down to a music shop and teach lessons, or however that looks. For a lot of musicians, teaching is a great side gig. It's fun. For me, speaking for myself, I enjoy teaching. So decide whether you want to teach or not. And then the next thing is, where can you share your music in terms of live performances? Who is playing there, and how are you going to get in touch with these people? Go in there, talk to the owner. You really want to be as personal as you can, because just an email to a venue is honestly never really led to that connection for me. You want to go there, talk to the person who's booking, and always want to have like standards of showing up on time, following through, basic business protocol that any entrepreneur would have really applies to musicians as well. And a lot of times some people, they don't have that sense, and so that gives you a layer above, right? Some people they don't get back, they're not going to return the call on time, or they're 30 minutes late for a meeting. So as musicians, I just want to encourage, like, we are business people. We're creative, and it's important to embrace creativity and the arts, but like we got to be on it as much as anyone, because we are doing this as a business, right? So that's something I want to stress for musicians. And then, music is such a broad world. It's like there's so many possibilities now with recording, and you really want to just sit down and think about all the possibilities that your music could reach. And I have a YouTube channel now, and that's getting some motion, and I didn't put as much time into that when before COVID, because I was more touring and performing and teaching it in person. But now, online is a huge space for musicians. And think about, like, what do people want to hear? How can I share my music in a channel, and what can engage them? And there's so much, singer-songwriters, jazz musicians. And the last thing is, you really want to have a mentor in your field. Like, really, that is so important as a musician, because it's such a unique path. And it's a little bit unpredictable. It's not like you go to law school and you're going to be a lawyer and you find a job. It's being a musician, there's a certain sense of fluidity in it, and having a mentor, someone who's been on that path, who can guide you, in the times when you're doubting or you're not sure. And to be a real artist, it's like everyone that people are listening to that we admire, like, they have somehow maintained a sense of, like, this is what I do and I'm going to do it, in terms of creativity. So to really develop that identity as an artist, and that sense of owning what you do, and not, you can't doubt it, right? It's like, nobody, great artists, they do it, and they're not doubting. And so that mentor can help you, encourage you to find that artistic voice. And you need to stay on top of your craft. Like, you should always be practicing and thinking about music. And the great artists are always looking for more inspiration and more ideas. So these are just some things off the top of my head that I want to encourage any musician out there who's listening to really think about, and
that's powerful advice, man. I love that last one. Find a mentor, right? Find somebody who's doing what you want to do, that has similar results to the ones that you want, and just follow them, right? Like, a lot of times people think that you need to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again, but more than likely there's somebody that has already traveled down that path that can give you advice to avoid mistakes that they've made, or get on the fast track instead of the slow path. In the music world, maybe that means getting more exposure, getting more gigs. Super powerful advice, man.
Yeah, those are big.
I'm curious. You mentioned, your YouTube channel, and of course we'll talk about that later on in the show. But I'm curious to know your thoughts on where we are right now in the digital world, because, apps like TikTok, right? Like, are you on TikTok?
Not yet, no.
Dude, Will, you got to get on there.
I'm kind of slow to it.
I mean, there are people right now that are becoming overnight sensations, viral, with one song on TikTok, because everyone wants to use their song in their video. And it's like, I'm not in the music world per se, but just looking back, the last 20 years or so, things have changed, man.
They have changed a lot, yeah.
Like, there is no more sending in demo tapes to record labels, right? Like, it's all digital.
Oh, tapes. I mean, I've got a box of CDs that I used to sell at shows. I'm like, what do I do with these? Like, they're irrelevant, you know. They're like archaic. I'll just give them away at the next show. But
Yeah.
you're right. It's a totally different game, and there are so many layers to this kind of new paradigm that we're in as musicians. And I think it's so exciting, though. You're right. You're talking about the ability that anyone can share their music, and it can reach a global audience without, like, in the old days you got to go into an office with a record label and sign it was such a different game. That's something I'm really looking into more now that I've very much been an old school artist where I perform and I meet people, and I teach in person. And with the pandemic, I'm getting more into this new paradigm per se. And I think I'm not a master of it yet, so I encourage listeners, whatever you are learning about that, consider that a valuable skill. It's not going to go away. Like, we're here in this new paradigm. So really embrace that and think of creative ways of like, what's your message? What can you share? And chances are there's people out there who will resonate with your message. And we always want to hear creative things and new things. That's what musicians are here to do, is just provide that inspiration. And also, like, you can record yourself. I've learned to do my own audio engineering since the shutdown, and I didn't do that before. I would hire a studio because people would book me for a recording to record on the album, and I would hire a studio. And I just, I'm not super tech, so that was my attitude. Like, I'll just focus on my instrument, and someone else will do that. And, well, why? I'm learning it now, and that saves me an extra chunk of change when I get a recording gig. I can do it. I don't have to pay the studio. So these layers of the technological world are just quite vast, and pay attention to it. Look at the trends, and think about how you can get your message, and what your position is, who your audience is. These are all things to think about and get excited about too.
Absolutely. Well, I'm curious, with all the tours and gigs and experiences that you've had in your career so far, what has been, or has there ever been, just a nightmare of an experience? Like, it did not go well.
Yeah, let's see. Well, being on the road, it's like there's inevitably always something shitty that happens on a given tour. And I mean, just off the bat, it's like I freaking lost my car key. Like, I was staying in Santa Cruz. It's at a friend's house, and had a couple days off there. And then the next day, 4-hour drive to the next show. And it's like, could not find the car key, like looking everywhere in the house. And I got to get to a gig, and I can't drive my car. And it's like, we're rural, kind of out there, and we find a guy who's going to come and, do it for us. It's like $350. And, a lot of times when you're on tour, some of these tours, you're not making a lot. It's worth it. It's fun. I would sell CDs, collect emails, but it's like, that's a blow, and you got to spend that. And then I had to miss the gig that night. Just these kind of hoops that come up are just something you got to deal with. And
Wow.
unfortunately, getting my car broken into on tour, that was crappy. I had, like, my passport that got, just like, when you're out in the world doing stuff, it's a big production to put on a show. It's like these these things happen, and
Right.
you kind of write it off as a part of, like, the tour expense of, like, whatever happened. I got broken into, or my car had this issue, or stuff like that.
Wow. So you got locked out of the locksmith had to come open up the door for you.
I had to buy, like, a new key and program it on the spot. The whole thing is a Prius key.
Wow. And how many hours did you have until the show? Like when
I
there's
missed the gig that night. I couldn't make it in time, and the band leader
wow.
was stressed because I wasn't gonna make the sound check. He's like, "No, just don't play tonight," and didn't get paid for that show.
Yeah.
So yeah, just those things are always, it's a
Now,
part of
when
life.
a moment like that happens, we all have those moments. Um, how do you deal with those stressful situations when anxiety is high and you feel that panic?
I try to remember that the whole experience that I'm on like is actually an awesome blessing to be grateful for. To be on I love being on the road. It's like I get to interact with new people and new places with the thing that I love, which is my music. And so it's like I said, it's kind of like the tour. It's like something's going to happen on every tour or whatever it is, and try to tap back into that, like, all right, this isn't the ideal situation I want to be in, but hey, I'm doing what I love. I'm on tour. I'm here to play music, and I will get through this scenario. And that's kind of helpful for me to just remember, like, wow, I'm lucky that I even get to do this, like,
Mm.
do what I love, and interact with the world in that way. And we'll get through it. Like, the next day
The show
we'll
goes
carry on,
on.
and the next show goes on. So
Now,
that helps.
on the flip side, Will, what would you
Mm.
say is the best experience that you've had so far? Like, dream experience, best gig. What was it like?
Well, I think one of the most memorable is, we talked about the sitar, and that I play, got this playing the sitar very seriously. And I've got to perform in India for, like, very educated Indian audiences, on as a foreigner, on this classical instrument. And one of my memorable performances was just last 2019 in Calcutta, and it was for the 80th celebration of a great musician who I studied with, Ustad Ashish Khan. And just it's a small room, and everyone's really packed in. There's probably 100 people in this very, like, rectangular type of room, and I got to play a set on this really great occasion, and just feeling the audience's appreciation of the music, and like their and in that culture they will literally vocally exclaim when they like something. Let's say "Kya baat hai," which means "how beautiful." And really feeling that connection with the audience, to me, is the greatest part of any gig. Because when I play, I'm I'm playing I'm playing for myself first, right? It's like I go into an inner space to access my creativity and the depth of the music. And then when the audience is there and they're feeling that, and you're feeling them feel it, it becomes like this mutual cycle. And that was very memorable at that performance in Calcutta. And I think that every gig, when I get a taste of that, that's like what lights me up as a musician. And that one in particular was like, wow, like I'm getting to play this music that has been such a big part of my life for the people, and the culture from where it comes. And it
Mm.
was it was just powerful.
Wow. And how did you go about getting a gig like that, of that magnitude?
So I had been going to Calcutta for every year since then, and I developed a relationship with the family who organized this celebration. And they would do book little things for me as I got there. So they really saw my dedication and my ability to play as a Westerner. And so it came just through that time of going to Calcutta and making those connections and relationships.
Mm. Now, has there been any challenges for you, being that you are from the West and the sitar is a part of the culture in India? Has there been any challenges, or have you got any hate? Haters just knocking you
Right.
or anything like that, or no?
Very minimally. And the cool thing is, the musicians, like, they love it because they see the dedication and the that you're coming from another culture and that you're committed to it, and it's like you're an instant family member in most cases. It's just this amazing way to connect. But then sometimes I think it's people that aren't, they're not a musician, and maybe they're threatened, or they're like, oh, you're, what are you doing? And that's actually been very minimal. And I can't even really say a time where someone's like really offended me or been mean in that sense, from that culture. So it's awesome, and it's really the opposite. It's like there's this kind of excitement and pride that, wow, people from other parts of the world are engaging in our music, and they're doing it well, and like, wow, we're proud about that. And that's the coolest thing about going to India every year for me, is just getting to be in that vibration, and be in the motherland, and be treated so well. It's like I get taken care of very well, and it's yeah. So the haters are few, which is awesome. And I think for sometimes it was just my own battle with myself, right? Because these guys, they start when they're like 4 years old, right? And they're just like shredding like hardcore by the time they're 20. They're just, and so for me it was my own battle of like, how can I be good? Like, how can I compete when I'm starting at 18, and I'm, that's more have been the journey, is just my own ability to accept where I'm at and just be totally okay with that, and not put that stigma on, I didn't start when I was 4, and I'm not Indian, and something like that. I think it's more been my own
right,
journey.
your own, yeah. Talk to us about India. What's it being from Michigan, right? Living in California. What's it like over there?
It is totally crazy and chaotic, and at the same time it is beautiful and serene. It's like everything about the human experience is kind of compressed in there. And the craziest thing about India is there's so many people and so much going on, but it all just like works out somehow, and you don't know how, but it just does. Like, the traffic is one example. There are so many people going from A to B at the exact same time, and you're just like, you're in the car, and it's nobody stops for anyone. It's kind of the rule. It's just like go unless you're literally gonna like run someone over. Like, you'll wait to the last moment and you honk at them. That's actually like kind of a kind thing. It's like, hey, I'm coming and I'm not gonna stop, so you honk. So everyone's just honking all the time, but people don't seem any more stressed or less happy, which is the interesting thing. It's like the infrastructure is just wild, but there's this real vibrancy to life. I mean, the food is amazing, and people are always like celebrating something, some kind of festival, or something religious that they're celebrating or they're excited about, and families are often together, and there's so much color in the way that people dress. And so it's kind of crazy to see so much chaos and so much beauty all together.
What's your favorite city that you've traveled to so far in
My favorite
India?
city, there's something about Calcutta that is especially endearing, and a part of it is because it is one of the bigger cities in India, but it's somehow maintained like this old school, like otherworld culture, even though it's all of these cities are becoming a little more Western, and modern influences come in. Like, you'll see a Starbucks in some of the bigger centers of these cities. But Calcutta just, it has this, like, you can picture what it was like 100 years ago in your mind, and there's something so exciting and charming about that. And people are they're very welcome and sweet. And when I carry my sitar around in Calcutta, they're like, oh, you're studying, and they'll start to talk to me and kind of engage. Whereas other cities like Mumbai, you could call like the New York, or Delhi could be like the New York, where people are just kind of fast paced and it's a little more harsh. And you know, as a tourist, people will try to sell you things a lot and kind of be in your face. And Calcutta, it's like, you know, the shop owner's just kind of sipping his tea, and he's not gonna rush you.
Mm.
And so I just love feeling like the old richness of what Indian culture is before other influences from the world, and Calcutta really has that.
Awesome,
And I've
man.
just got such good relationships there that it's like a second home.
I'm curious. How much does it cost to travel from California to India? Because it can't be cheap. I know it can't be cheap.
Oh, well, it's not that much. I mean, I've never paid more than $800 for a round trip ticket.
Really?
And when I go to my little Traverse City town from California, it's like $700 because of this small airport. So I mean, the flights are not. That's not the expense, really. And then once you get there, the dollar goes a long way in India. There's what 70 rupees to a dollar. You can get a good meal for 300 rupees. So once you're in India, it's like you're living pretty well. Um,
Wow.
and
Interesting.
that's something that I like to put out there for people who may be curious about it. Is it's, you know, if you want to go to Europe and spend a month there, like you gotta prepare to afford that, right? Like
Mm.
it's the opposite, where like the dollar is not even going as far. But in countries like India and Vietnam and parts of Asia, like your dollar's going a long way. And you know, it's not quite the standard. If you know, it's third world, so it's a little different. But if you just embrace the whole journey, it's not that expensive at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you know,
Yeah.
with flights now, you go on to whatever Expedia, and you can find the different flights. And yeah, I had one that was like 650 round trip.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I looked at flights to Japan
Mm.
last year, and it was like 4K for like
Wow.
for not
Yeah.
for one ticket, but for like me and the wife. It was like I was like, hey, Japan's an expensive trip.
It's a chunk. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean now with everything COVID has done to the airline industry, I feel like the flights are just a lot cheaper now. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, unfortunately, now like there's no tourist visas for India right now, so I'm not going to be able to go this year. It'll be the first time in a while, because they've got quite a situation with the pandemic there. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
they
And
do. India, I think
hope
like 80,000 plus cases a day right now.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm hoping that if things come around, maybe February or something, I'll grab a ticket and get out there. But yeah,
Mm. Yeah,
yeah.
COVID's getting old, man. It's getting old. You
I'm
know.
tired of it. Yeah.
Today was the first day back in school for a lot of kids.
Mm.
And it's like, how do you do virtual learning for elementary school kids, right? How are first graders supposed to just sit in front of a computer for 6 hours a day? I just don't understand. I don't understand. And I know not all school
Mm.
districts are doing virtual. Some are returned back to the physical buildings, but it's just COVID is definitely tossed things up for a lot of people in a lot of situations, and I'm curious to know how COVID has affected you and your business on the business side of things, because I know you're into teaching, doing gigs and whatnot, and that was halted for a little bit, obviously, when everything was shut down. So talk to us about that from the business aspect. How are you doing business wise, and what kind of experiences have you had?
Right. So it's definitely been a challenge for me as a performing artist and someone who teaches in person. And as I was mentioning earlier, about you were asking about gigs and how they work, I get clients when I'm out performing in the world. Like that's just the best way for me to develop my business, is when I'm out performing and interacting. And you know, that that has all stopped, and it's I don't know when it's going to come back. In the sense of California, we still don't have indoor dining. There's no large groups permitted. So from what I see, all of my contracts and gigs have just been indefinitely canceled. So that's tough, both financially and just kind of like mentally. It's like, dang, I don't even know when it's going to come back, right? But there are some positives that have come out of this, and one of them is I've put more energy into my instrument import business in this time because I'm not doing as many other things, and I've been selling instruments well. I'm almost out of my stock. So before, that was kind of like always on the to-do list of get into more of the marketing and how am I going to sell these instruments, but I was busy with other things. So it's cool to see that developing, and seeing I really have a vision of that being a nice complement to my music and my performing, of having this business, this import business. I'm passionate about sitars. I know them. So it's been cool to see that come up. And also I've developed a lot of new skills during COVID. And for example, we talked about, YouTube, and I can do my own video shooting and editing now. I learned Final Cut Pro, which is a Mac software. And I was like, in my mind, that was always like this untouchable world of like, whoa, video editing, like I'm just going to hire people, and well, that sounds scary. And I really enjoy it. It's just kind of fun. Like I've been taking lessons and learning from a teacher, and the same with recording, audio recording. I've got my little setup on my laptop with the program Logic, which is a Mac program, and I can record my instruments pretty well. And I've been taking lessons again on that. So, these are the ups of COVID. The downs are just like, when am I going to be able to perform again? And when a lot of venues are like totally, they don't even know when they're going to start. There's so much behind booking that a lot of people don't understand. It's like it's done years out, and there's so many levels of business that happen that I don't know when we're really going to be back in the swing of performing arts, but I'm doing the best in the meantime, with other things.
I think it's the only thing you can do, man, is get your skills right, better yourself the best you can. I do think that eventually we will be back to normal.
Yeah,
it might take a while, but
right.
There's some stubborn people in the United States that maybe don't want to contribute to the cause, or I don't know. Maybe it's some people say that it's delaying the reopening of a lot of things. I don't know. It's a mess.
There's a lot.
It's a mess. COVID is a mess. Gotta be patient. But that's cool, man, that you're flipping instruments. When you say import, are you getting them? Are you buying them for cheaper, like overseas or from other areas, and then reselling them, like refurbishing them, or what does that look like?
So Indian instruments are only handmade in India. Like you can't make them anywhere else in the world because the skill set is pretty intense, and it's these families in India that have been doing it for generations. So sitars aren't made in the United States, and they're not made in factories even. They're made in these little rooms. Like I literally go to my makers and I visit them to kind of just check up on them and maintain that relationship. And like their father taught them, and they barely even use power tools. It's crazy. They sit on the floor and they do a lot of it by hand, and they put these instruments together, and these are the sitars that every sitar player plays, are made in these kind of settings. So
wow,
it can be challenging as an American in America to be playing this instrument that isn't really made here. And it's if I need work on my instrument, I can't go to a guitar shop and expect them to like do a little repair on my sitar, right? So it's been really interesting. I kind of saw a need for more credible sources of people that are looking for Indian instruments in the United States. And part of the advantage is that I'll check them and make sure that things are set up right. Because if you just order something from another country, it's like you don't really know what you're going to get, in a sense. So it's just something that I saw as a potential, and it's slowly I've been developing that. And yeah, so when I go to Calcutta, I go in there and bring some back by hand. If not, I ship them as well. So I've got a shipment prepared. Um,
Mm.
it takes a long time. That's another thing about India, is time is a little more fluid there. It's not quite as there's a different flow to time, and sometimes getting an email back is easily a week or two before I hear back. So
Wow.
and I've noticed that consistently through a lot of the makers, and but it's definitely fun, and something. It's really kind of gotten me to exercise more of that entrepreneur business mind, and I enjoy it. It's something that I can add to my music performing and teaching, and so yeah, it's been cool.
Now, well, I have to ask. Next to your sitar, what is
Yeah,
that directly behind you?
this one.
It looks
Or
like a
this one.
weapon. The one, yeah.
So this is actually it's called the Sitar, and it is from Iran, ancient Persia. And so this is what eventually evolved into this big sitar. And so this is I'm not sure if it's tuned right. So it's a more simple, delicate instrument, but this is actually the ancestor of the full sitar that I was showing you. And India has an amazing history and story of how this music came about, because India has an ancient civilization of its own, but then Persia came around the 1300s and kind of politically took control of North India. So think of like Akbar the Great and the Taj Mahal. These are all part of that influence of Persia coming to India. So this is the original Persian instrument called the setar. And
Mm.
it's a beautiful, beautiful music and style, and that merged with India to create this style that the Indian sitar plays. So
Mm.
yeah,
Awesome.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, super cool, man. It looks, and that was handmade, right?
Yes,
Because it
handmade by
looks,
walnut
yeah,
wood here, and yeah.
very impressive, man.
Hmm.
I'm learning a lot, man. Before this episode, I had no idea what a sitar was.
It's
Now
great.
I feel like I can go teach the next person.
There you go.
uh, I want to bring things full circle here, Will. We've
Yep.
been chatting for the last 45 minutes, and the listeners, they're engaged. They're inspired by your journey. What's your message to the person out there that wants to pursue something they're passionate about, or maybe they want to change their course, what they're currently doing, they're not feeling fulfilled or happy? And what's your message to the people?
Yeah, so I really have a strong message of that thing that lights you up and inspires you. That is something that you have to nurture and trust that. And if you don't do that, it's not going to give you that opportunity. Like, if I logically thought about, like, should I play sitar? Will I be able to develop a sustainable career? And is there a real, like, I just went for it. And it wasn't easy, mind you. But I'm just so glad that I followed that path, because now I'm at a place in my life where it's opening up, and like I get to wake up every day and do things I love, and seeing that grow. And I just really encourage people to listen to that inspiration and that spark, and even if it doesn't feel or seem like it's a logical thing to do, or maybe your community or your family, it's not something they do. It's if you know that it is inspiring to you and resonating with you, you really it is your almost like your duty to honor that, and put that energy in there and trust that. I had to really have a lot of trust in this path, because there were definitely difficult times, and a lot of people will say, oh, musicians, how are you going to make a living? And that energy from the outside world, you got to kind of tune that out and really really develop, because when you nurture something that you love and that is really your own creativity or energy. It's no one can take that away. And at the end of the day, it's like money can come and go, fame or can come and go, even your health can come and go. But if you nurture something that just brings you life and joy and inspiration, I believe that that will cycle into a bigger spiral of just more opportunity and connections. And I think about the kind of relationships I've made through my journey of music, and it's just amazing, the friendships and the, how everything kind of led to the next thing. It's like, it's really, it's humbling and amazing. And so I'm just speaking as someone who went down a path that was difficult and was not normal, and here I am, like I wouldn't have done anything different. So that's really my message for everyone. And it's not like you have to like there there's a balance to life, but it's like develop that trust and that commitment. And even maybe you have a family and you're busy, like commit to that 40 minutes a day where you're engrossed in this thing that you love. Like just that alone will cultivate, and you could find yourself in somewhere you never imagined just by that commitment. And I think a lot of visionaries will say that, it's like I never dreamed that this would be possible, but I maintained that commitment and I followed that inspiration.
Some golden nuggets right there, Will. Dropping the heat. I love it, man. I'm curious, aside from the from your music passion and your career in music, what hobbies do you have outside of that? What do you enjoy to do in your free time?
Yeah, I love bike riding. Is kind of like my daily thing of just, it's exercise and enjoyment. And being in nature is really what kind of inspires me. I love driving down a rural road I've never been on, exploring. I visit a lot of the national parks and mountain areas, and just to really, I feel like nature is kind of like the balancing force, like, and then as a musician, like hearing birds and running water and crickets at night, like that's it for me. If I could have a place in the city where I work and stuff, and I'm dreaming of my like retreat sanctuary that's in the mountains with a long dirt driveway and no other houses around. Like I just love being out in nature and getting that time.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Speaking of like sounds, have you ever been to Florida?
I have. It's been a long time since I was a kid, like the Disneyland stuff, but
Florida at nighttime in July, you open up the door,
bugs.
You'll hear sounds you've never heard anywhere else. It's unbelievable, but that's super cool, man. I love the mountains too. I lived in Texas for quite some time, and it's very flat there. There's nothing. There's no terrain. There's zero terrain. It doesn't exist. But I've been to the Pacific Northwest. I've been to places like California, Nevada, and the mountains are amazing. I love to ski too. Have you ever went skiing?
Oh, great. Yeah, I grew up skiing. I grew up literally right near a ski hill, and I'd ski every day in the winter. And I lived in Colorado for a short time, and yeah, I still love skiing.
Sweet. Yeah, man. Yeah. Season is upon us.
Indeed.
I'm curious to see, if there's going to be any restrictions or whatever with Corona going forward, but probably not. I don't know. Skiing is pretty individual, right? You're not really on top of a lot of people. Yeah, you already were. Yeah. Will, going forward, man, right now what is it? September 2020. What's next for you, Will? The next time we chat, man, what do you have planned for yourself? What's next? What's the next big thing?
Yeah, so the most exciting is the process of recording an original album that features new music that I've written, and I performed it live about a year ago, August 2019. I did a show with my buddy who I grew up with playing music, a great percussionist named Josh Mellinger, and this music is different because, like I've been talking, I've studied Indian music and classical, all kinds of music, but now I have something that is my own interpretation of all of this, and it's kind of my own voice, right? Because when I'm playing the traditional sitar, it's like I love it, I'm always going to do it, but it's not fully my essence, right? There's something as an artist where you learn all these things, and then something comes together. There's an integration, and so I'm in the process of recording this album that I'm really excited about. And another thing is I'm shooting some online courses where the exciting one is Indian music. It's super beautiful and rich and complex, and I want to give other musicians a taste of being able to study that. Like, say you're a jazz musician and you're like, oh, I want to learn a little bit about Indian scales and rhythm. I'm shooting a course that's designed for any musician who wants to kind of broaden their musical vocabulary. And since COVID, kind of seeing the rise of online courses and that platform, and that's really exciting for me too, to be able to share the richness of this music with more people.
Awesome, man. Hey, Will, if you need any help with your online course, that's like my specialty, man.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Sales funnels, email follow-ups, email campaigns. That's like my sitar. That's what gets me going, man.
That's great, man.
Yeah, man. That's awesome, man. And I can't wait to check out the album, man.
Right on.
You're definitely doing some awesome things, and you have a super inspirational story. I want to thank you so much for sharing. Now, for the listeners out there, you teased them a little bit when you picked up that sitar, but they want to hear more.
Yes.
What's the best place for them to do so?
My website is willmarshmusic.com. From there, you'll see my YouTube channel, and that's a great spot to visit me. I've got a track on Spotify. If you search Will Marsh, you'll see a picture of me with a sitar, and I've got a short track there. There's more to come. And you can check me out on Instagram, where I share just a lot of daily snippets of music. Marsh Strings is my Instagram handle. And those are the best places to find me.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, Will, I want to thank you so much for stopping by the show and sharing. And hope you enjoy the day and look forward to chatting again soon.
Right on, Ross. Thank you.